Class 10 Biology, Chapter 15, Our Environment, Video number 1. Students, in this video, I'm going to discuss about the environment and its components. I will be discussing about ecosystem, the components of ecosystem, and then how the various components of ecosystems are interacting to make things like flow of energy and the cyclic of nutrient possible. We'll be also learning about the ways in which the accumulation of biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste is affecting our environment. So under this, I'm going to discuss about the management of garbage accumulation and also about ozone depletion and what measures are being taken to to minimize the depletion of ozone layer, right? So let us first start with environment. Environment, as you all know, it is your surrounding, everything that surrounds an individual or an organism, that includes both living and non-living things that surrounds an organism and continuously interacts with the organism without becoming a part of it, is what is called as environment, or the surrounding of the individual. The environment includes a physical surrounding that includes air or atmosphere, the water bodies, soil, the climatic conditions like temperature, rainfall, humidity, etc., and the biotic factors or the living organisms like plants, animals, and human beings. Now, this environment that is supporting life is getting affected, and it's getting affected due to accumulation of waste materials. Okay, let's know what is a waste. Waste is something which is to be discarded because it has got no use. And when we talk about waste, they may be either solid waste, they may be liquid waste, or maybe gaseous waste. So here in this chapter, we'll be focusing on solid waste, which is the garbage, right? On the way, this waste material, solid waste, based upon whether they can be decomposed or not, they are classified as biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable waste. Biodegradable wastes are those which can be decomposed by microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi, and they are decomposable because these organisms, that is the decomposers, they have enzymes for decomposing or degrading or digesting the complex organic material that are contained in these wastes. So the peels of fruits and vegetables, clothes made up of cotton, silk, leather, etc., the leftovers of food materials, paper, so anything that is of animal or plant origin is considered as a biodegradable waste. Any waste of plant or animal origin, maybe the dead bodies of plants and animals also. Non biodegradable wastes are those waste materials which cannot be degraded or decomposed into simpler harmless forms by decomposers. The reason is that there is no enzyme available in the digestive juices secreted by the decomposers, and hence they cannot be decomposed into simpler forms. Okay, so these waste materials, they include plastics. There are many examples like the polythene bags, the glass bottles, the scrap materials, tin cans. All these are examples of non biodegradable waste materials, right? And these waste materials, they affect the environment in various ways. Some of the ways how they affect the environment is they destroy the natural beauty of the surroundings, that and make them by making them dirty. The decomposition of these waste, especially the biodegradable waste, when they are decomposed, they produce foul smell which spreads in the surroundings, and the area becomes difficult to live in, right? And then these waste materials, like both biodegradable and non biodegradable, may block the drains, result in stagnation of water that becomes breeding ground of mosquitoes, and which results in spread of diseases like malaria, dengue, etc. So these are the ways how they degrade the environment or affect the environment. Here is a difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. So as I said, you biodegradable waste can be decomposed or broken down into simpler forms naturally by microbial action, whereas non-biodegradable waste cannot be broken down. The biodegradable waste, these waste materials, they generally they get recycled. That is, when the waste materials are decomposed into simpler forms, then they are released into the nutrient pool, that is air, water, or soil, and that is then reutilized by the plants. But the non-biodegradable waste, they are not released in that way because they cannot be broken into simpler forms, so they are not released as raw materials or simpler forms into the environment. The other difference that we have between the two is the biodegradable waste pollutes the environment only when it accumulates in larger quantities, whereas non biodegradable waste will be serving as pollutants even if they are present in huge quantities. And the biodegradable waste will never accumulate and result in a process called as biological magnification, whereas bioconcentration or biomagnification of non-biodegradable waste, that is these non-biodegradable waste materials, they enter the food chain and result in the phenomena called as biological magnification. Recycling of the biodegradable waste can be done naturally by the action of microorganisms and their or either through human effort also, but non biodegradable waste, they can be recycled only through human effort. Microbial actions cannot break down the non biodegradable waste into their simplest forms. So, these are the examples of biodegradable and non biodegradable. All the waste materials that you see here are either of plant or animal origin, whereas non biodegradable, it includes polythene bags, glass bottles, scrap metals, tin cans, electronic waste. These are all non biodegradable. Let's now learn about ecosystem. An ecosystem is defined as an area which is comprising of biotic and abiotic components, where both these biotic and abiotic components in that area continuously interact and influence each other, right? So here, as it's mentioned, that all the organisms like plants, animals, and human beings, they, as well as the physical surrounding that interacts with each other and make life possible. So such area which comprises of these biotic and abiotic components, where both these components interact and influence each other, is what is called as an ecosystem. An ecosystem consists of biotic component and abiotic components. The biotic components include the living organisms like plants, animals, and the decomposers, whereas abiotic components includes the non-living factors. Ecosystems can either be natural or they may be man-made or artificial. So natural ecosystems, they can be terrestrial as grassland, forest, and desert, or aquatic ecosystem that includes the marine ecosystem, that is oceans. Then you've got lakes, seas, rivers, ponds. All these rivers, lakes, ponds, they are freshwater ecosystems, whereas ocean, sea, it's an example of marine aquatic ecosystem. The um, artificial or man-made ecosystem includes aquarium or a crop field or a garden. All these are examples of artificial ecosystem, right? Now, as I said here, the ecosystem comprises of biotic and abiotic components. The biotic components of the ecosystem includes producers. These are the organisms which traps the light energy, that is the sunlight, and converts it into uh, the chemical energy. This chemical energy is then used to make food, and then that is what is available to all the other organisms or animals which are present in the ecosystem. So producers, they are said to be as transducers. Why they are called as transducers? Because they are the ones which convert the light energy into chemical energy, and this is then provided to other members of the ecosystem. Hence, the producers, they are also referred to as the transducers, and this includes the green plants and the or which are also referred to as autotrophs. Now, consumers, they are the animals which them or herbivores or heterotrophs. Sorry, they are consumers or heterotrophs. These are the organisms which themselves cannot make food but are directly or indirectly dependent upon the producers to obtaining nourishment for obtaining nourishment. So this the consumers, they include the primary consumers, which are the herbivores, secondary consumers, which are the ones which eat the flesh of primary consumers. Then there may be tertiary consumers also, which eat the flesh of secondary consumers, and then the top carnivores or quaternary consumers, which eat the flesh of secondary and the tertiary consumers but themselves are not fed upon, right? Then the ecosystem as a biotic community also includes the decomposers. They are the bacteria and fungi, and these decomposers, they play a very important role in recycling of nutrient. It is the decomposers which decompose the dead bodies of producers or the consumers or the waste materials. So the dead bodies of the plants and animals or the waste materials are degraded to simplest form, and then again these simplest form, that is the raw materials, are released back into the environment so that it can be reutilized by the producer. So it's because of the decomposers that recycling of the waste materials is possible, and it is because of decomposers that the nutrients continuously keep on cycling between the biotic and abiotic components of the ecosystem. The abiotic factors of the ecosystem includes the climatic factors like rainfall, temperature, humidity, light, wind speed, etc., and the edaphic factors like soil, pH, minerals, topography, etc. Right? So these are the components of ecosystem, and these different components of ecosystem continuously interact and influence each other. And through this interaction between the various components of ecosystem, two things are possible. One is a flow of energy, and other is a cycling of nutrient. Okay, so this flow of energy, it occurs between the biotic community, between the members of the biotic community, in the form of food by the process of eating and being eaten, or in other words, the energy flow through the ecosystem through the food chain. And the cycling of nutrient or the nutrient cycles, they are these are the various cycles through which the nutrients keeps on circulating between the living and non-living components of the ecosystem. Okay, this is also referred to as biogeochemical cycle, about which you have already learned in your class 9, right? So we'll be focusing here on the energy flow. So let's learn about that. Energy, as I said, it flows through the members of the biotic community in the form of food by the process of eating and being eaten. So this sequential process, which represents who eats whom, is what is called as food chain. Okay, or in other words, we can say that food chain is a sequence of living organisms in a community in which one organism consumes the other organism to transfer energy as food. Okay, this is what is called as food chain. So let's see what are the important features of a food chain. If you see the diagram, you find that a food chain always starts with a producer. Always, the first level of the food chain is always occupied by a producer, which is a plant. And the reason behind this is it is a producer which traps the light energy or the energy that is provided by the sun and converts it into chemical energy. So the energy that is provided to a food chain, it is actually coming from sun. Okay, because it's a sunlight which is trapped by the producer and converted to chemical energy. And this energy then flows through the food chain through various levels, and this is the reason why sun is referred to as ultimate source of energy. Okay, then the next level of the food chain is occupied by herbivore, and then above that you will have carnivores of various levels. One more important feature of the food chain is decomposers are not included in any step of the food chain. Reason is that they are present at every level. Whenever a producer, a herbivore, carnivore of any level, when they die, then the dead bodies or the waste that they release are decomposed by decomposers. Hence, we do not include decomposers at any level. Third important feature is the flow of energy in the food chain is unidirectional. It always occurs in one direction. That is how, what does it mean? The energy that is trapped by the plant from the sun, or the producer from the sun, cannot be returned back to sun. What has been transferred to the herbivore from the producer cannot be returned back to the herbivore. And what has been consumed in a food chain is consumed forever. It cannot be returned back to sun. Hence, we say that the flow of energy is unidirectional in a food chain, right? Other very important feature that you see in a food chain is that food chains are maximum to 3 to 5 levels. You don't find more than 5 levels in any more, or than 5. Maximum it will go to 6 levels, but most of the food chains, they have 3 to 5 levels or 3 to 4 levels. The reason behind this is that at every level of the food chain, a huge amount of energy is lost as heat or is used up. Okay, so at every level you find huge amount of energy is either lost as heat and is used up or is used up. This accounts to around 90% of the total energy which any level obtains. So the total amount of energy which will be left at every level will be just 10% of the previous level, and this is what is available to the next level. And at the next level also you find that 90% is lost as heat or is used up, and only 10% is stored. So what happens is, as we move to higher levels, you find the amount of energy goes on reducing. And so when we come to the fourth or the fifth level, very little energy is left at the last level to be transferred to the next level. Hence, the food chains don't go beyond 3 to 5 levels. Most of them have 5 levels, 6 level where rarely you find, and beyond that you hardly, there's no food chain. So most of the food chains, they are of 3 to 4 levels. These are some important features of the food chains, right? Then other important thing that you find in the food chain is, as you move to the higher levels, you find that the population goes on decreasing. Means the producers are maximum, and top carnivores, the ones which occupy the topmost level, are always few in number. Okay, so these are the important features of the food chain. Okay, now coming to trophic levels. Trophic levels are the various steps of the food chain through which energy is passed from one level to other. So each level of the food chain through which energy is passed from one level to other in the form of food is referred to as trophic level. The first trophic level is occupied by producer. Then you have got the primary consumer, which is a herbivore. Then you have got the secondary consumer, which may be the first level carnivore. And then you may have tertiary consumer or quaternary also, that is the topmost level will be occupied by a top carnivore. A top carnivore will be the one which eats the flesh of the lower level animals, but itself is not consumed. Okay, so each level is called as a trophic level. So here you see there is a 3-step food chain. The first level is occupied by producer. Second level is occupied, trophic level is occupied by deer, right, which is a herbivore, and the third trophic level is occupied by lion, which is the top carnivore, right? So this is a trophic level. Now let's see the significance of food chain. A study of food chain gives you information about the relationship and interaction between the various organisms or the members of the biotic community. Okay, so when you study a food chain, you know how energy is being transferred from one level to other level, or between the different living components of the ecosystem. Then other important feature or significance of food chain is that it shows that the transfer of energy through various levels in the ecosystem, and it also shows that how this flow of energy is unidirectional, right? So this is another significance. Then a study of food chain also helps us to know about the movement of toxic persistent pollutants like pesticides and weedicides through the food chain. So this is the significance. This phenomena is referred to as biomagnification. I've told you in the beginning also. So the phenomena of biomagnification, that how toxic pollutants accumulate at various levels, that becomes very clear when we study the food chain. Now let's study about the flow of energy. As I said you that the food chains don't go beyond 5 levels. Most of the food chains, they have got 3 to 4 levels or so. And as I said to you that the reason behind it is, At every level, you find some amount of energy is lost. So let's see how this flow occurs. First of all, remember that of the total amount of energy that falls, light energy that falls on the plant, only 1% of the total energy will be used up by the plants to make food by photosynthesis. Okay, so of the total energy, like if suppose if we take this example, if suppose 1000 joules of energy, light energy, is available on the plants for from the sun, then of the 1000 joules, the plants when they make, they'll be using only 1% of the energy for preparing food. So the total energy that will be available at the plant level will be only 10 joules. Okay, then from the plants, now this 10 joules of energy from the plants of the producer is now available for the next level. Okay, so it's going to the next level as food. Now in the next level, that is the herbivore level, in this case you find that 10% of the 90% of the total energy which it gets from the producer, it's going to lose as heat or for repair, respiration, digestion, growth, development, etc. And it's going to store only 10% of the total energy. So 10% of 10 joule is just 1 joule. Okay, so this is the energy that is available in the body of the herbivore for the next level, that is the carnivore. So this is what is passed to the next level. When we move to the next level, again the same phenomena, you find that at the next level also it's going to lose, the carnivore is going to lose 90%, or the next level is going to lose 90% of the total energy, that is of 1 joule. 0.9 joule of energy in this example, we can take it as it's lost to the environment as heat, or may be used up for growth, development, repair, respiration, digestion, etc. And the total energy that will be available will be 0.1 joule. So this shows that the very like as the energy flows through the food chain, only 10% of the total energy that any level gets is available to the next level. And so as you move to the higher trophic levels, the total energy that is available at higher levels will go on reducing. This law of flow of energy, where only 10% of the total energy available at any level is passed to the next trophic level, is what is called as 10% law of flow of energy. And it's because of this law that what you find is that food chains, they don't go beyond 3 to 5 levels. Okay, so after fourth trophic level, if you here it's a 3 trophic level, but if you go with the fourth trophic level and so on, you'll find that the energy will be very, very less. And this is the other reason why top carnivores are not eaten. Okay, so that's about the flow of energy. Now food chains, they rarely work in isolation. In an ecosystem, you find that every organism will be eating a number of other organisms, and itself will be fed upon by many organisms. And so we find that in an ecosystem, the food chain is in the form of network. This network of interconnected food chain that operates in an ecosystem is what is referred to as food web. So here you can see, here this is a diagrammatic representation, where you find that every organism, it will be eating a number of different kinds of food, and itself will be fed upon by many other organisms, right? So every organism may be occupying one or two, more than one trophic levels. In certain cases, it may be occupying the third trophic level. Sometimes it may be the fourth or the second trophic level also. Okay, so you find there is a network of food chains, and this network is because as I said you, that organism may occupy a position in more than one food chain, because it's not that only a particular animal will be having only one type of food. It may be eating a different types of food also, so it may be a participant of a number of food chain. Okay, and that particular animal may be serving as food to many other different types of different animals. And so food chains, they work in a as a net, they are all interconnected, and this network of interconnected food chain is what is referred to as a food web. Okay, so that's about the this interactions which results in the flow of energy. And if we have to differentiate between a food chain and a food web, a food chain is a sequence of organisms formed because of the flow of energy that is happening as food by the process of eating and being eaten. Whereas a food web, it is a network of interconnected food chain. A food chain is a part of food web, whereas a food web contains a number of food chains, right? A food chain will be having populations of two to say 3 to 5 species, but a food web, you find it has population of a number of species because it's a network of interconnected food chain. So our populations of a number of species will be making up the food web. So this is the difference between food chain and food web. Now let us discuss about the environmental problems that are prevailing, which is degrading, slowly degrading the environment and making this place maybe like unfit for human survival also. If control measures are not taken, then our survival will also, in fact, it is now also it is under threat. So here the two of the ways how environment is being degraded, what we have to learn is, one is depletion of ozone layer and other is a problem that we are facing related to waste disposal. So first let us learn about ozone. First let's know what is ozone. Ozone is triatomic oxygen, and this triatomic oxygen or ozone is a highly toxic gas. It's highly poisonous if it is present in the lower levels of atmosphere. But then, thanks that ozone is not stable in the ground levels, it is more stable in the stratosphere of the atmosphere. Okay, so there this ozone, it forms a thick layer around 12 to 15 kilometers above the sea level. 12 to 50 kilometers above the sea level, you find there's a thick layer of ozone present, and that thick layer of ozone is called as ozone layer or ozonosphere. And this ozonosphere is protecting all the life forms that are existing on earth from the harmful effects of UV radiation, ultraviolet radiation. You have learned in your class 9 that exposure to ultraviolet radiation results in many problems, health hazards like you've got skin cancer, cataract, it weakens the immune system, it causes destruction of plants, even the plastics also get destroyed because of exposure to ultraviolet radiation. So ozone is protecting us from the harmful ultraviolet radiation. And how it's protecting, let us see. First let us see how ozone is formed. So ozone is formed by a photochemical reaction. First, the what happens is in the stratosphere, as oxygen, diatomic oxygen, when it drifts to the stratosphere, there it absorbs a high energy of ultraviolet radiation and splits up into two atoms of oxygen. Two atoms of oxygen. Then an atom of oxygen, it combines with another molecule of diatomic oxygen to form ozone. Okay, so this is how ozone is formed. So ozone, it is formed by this method. Now once ozone is formed, ozone again, it absorbs the high energy of ultraviolet radiation that's there in the sun, solar radiations, and then it again splits up into diatomic oxygen and free atom of oxygen. Okay, so this is how ozone is protecting the life forms on earth by absorbing the energy of ultraviolet radiation and splitting into diatomic oxygen and an atom of oxygen. Then this diatomic oxygen and atom of oxygen, it again combines and forms ozone. So for a very long period of time, there was a balance maintained between formation and decomposition of oxygen. This process is going on happening. So for a very long period of time, there was a balance maintained between formation and the decomposition. But like in the year somewhere in 1980s, 1985 or so, a huge ozone hole was detected over Antarctica. Ozone hole is not a direct hole in the ozone layer. It's actually the place where in the ozone layer where the layer has become thin, has thinned out. So a huge ozone hole was detected over Antarctica, and in many other places, smaller holes. In many places, it was found that the ozone layer had thinned out. And when the reason of it was found that it was because of excessive use of chlorine and bromine containing compound. So one such compound which causes ozone depletion is CFC, that is chlorofluorocarbon, which was earlier used in as a coolant. It was used in refrigerator, aerosols, in fire extinguishers. This CFC, or chlorofluorocarbon, when it is released in the atmosphere, CFC releases free atoms of chlorine, and chlorine atom, when it is released and with this chlorine atom drifts through the stratosphere, it starts degrading the ozone. Okay, it depletes the ozone. It's estimated that one single atom of chlorine can destroy around 1 lakh ozone molecule. So as I said you, that formation and decomposition, that is formation of ozone, when the free atom of oxygen combines with oxygen molecule, it forms ozone. And when ozone absorbs the high energy of ultraviolet radiation, it again gives these two. So for a long period of time, there was a balance maintained. But when the CFC, or chlorine, chlorofluorocarbon, or chlorine containing compounds, when they were used in excess, the decomposition process, it became faster, and this resulted in depletion of ozone layer. And as I said you, when ozone layer will get as it has got depleted, it has become difficult to filter out the ultraviolet radiations, and when ultraviolet radiation directly reach the earth's surface, the living beings get exposed, and exposure to ultraviolet radiation results in all these different kinds of health hazards. Now, it not only affects human life, but the life of animals and the plants is also affected. And so, looking into this problem, in 1986 or 87, there was a there was a event held, and then under United Nations Environmental Program, in 1987, it was decided that the countries, all the countries, will freeze out the manufacture of CFC. So many of the countries are no more making use of chlorofluorocarbon as a coolant. No refrigerators are now being made, or air conditions that have chlorofluorocarbon, right? So this was a action that was taken. But still there are many developing countries which might be using this chlorofluorocarbons as a coolant. So this is still going on, but then this has to be stopped, because if it is not stopped, then our life definitely will be under threat. Now, the other problem that we have is biological magnification. Okay, I've discussed this earlier also. Biological magnification is an increase in the concentration of harmful, persistent chemicals like pesticides in the body of living organism at each trophic level in the food chain. What you find is these pesticides, you have learned in your junior classes that weedicides and pesticides, they are used to kill pests. Okay, they kill the pest, or weedicides are the ones which kill the weeds or the unwanted plants. And these pesticides, the pesticides, they are non biodegradable. Okay, they cannot be broken down into simpler form. So once they are sprayed on the, over the in the field, or if they are put if they are sprayed in the field, then these pesticides, they will be mm, um, absorbed by the roots of the plants. Okay, the plants will absorb, because the pesticides are non-biodegradable. After killing the pest, they move into the soil. When the farmer irrigates the field, or when it rains, the pesticide goes into the soil, and the roots of the plants or the producers, they absorb the pesticides along with water. Once the pesticide has gone into the body of the plant, from here it starts accumulating at higher level, because plants will be consumed by herbivores, so it will be accumulating in the body of a herbivore. Then from here it may be passed to the next level, that is carnivore. And carnivores, the ones which are occupying the topmost level, they are not being consumed by anyone else. So you find the highest level of the pesticide, because they are not consumed, highest level of pesticide you'll find in the ones which are present in the topmost level of the food chain. And as you know that we human beings, If we are participant of many food chain, so we human beings, if here is a another picture that you can see, we occupy all the topmost level of all the food chains, right? So here you find that the highest level of pesticide you'll find in our body. This is an aquatic food chain. So if suppose pesticides are sprayed in the field, they move to the water body, then from the water body they are going to go into the body of small fishes. They may then be consumed by the larger fishes, so pesticides will move into the body of the larger fishes, and then when they are consumed by human beings, we will be having the highest level of pesticides. So you can see here the concentration of pesticide from 2 ppm to 1600 ppm in human body, it's going on increasing. Okay, so this increase in the concentration of harmful persistent chemicals like pesticides in the body of living organism at each trophic level is what is called as biological magnification, and this is another problem that we all are facing. The last thing that we need to discuss is about the garbage disposal. As I said, you garbage is a solid waste. Okay, and this solid waste can either be biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So increase in the lifestyle of people has changed, it has resulted in excessive what is a production of solid waste. And this solid waste, or the waste that is produced, now once they are created, they are to be dumped, and if they are not dumped in a proper manner, this results in a nuisance. It causes pollution. We have discussed the non-biodegradable waste will lead to biological magnification. They lead to other problems also. Even the biodegradable waste, when they are dumped, they cause lots of problems. So proper disposal or a scientific disposal of the waste material is very much needed. Our changed lifestyle has resulted in accumulation of huge amount of waste. How? In what way? Now you find most of the materials that we make use of is all disposable, and since the materials that we make use of, most of them are disposable things are to be like they are all made of plastics, and so we dump the plastic and that becomes a nuisance. Okay, there's a change in the packaging material also. The packaging material has changed, and most of the packaging material, they are all made up of plastics, and plastics, they are non-biodegradable. So the packaging material is not kept, it's again dumped. So this also results in formation of huge amount of waste, and the increasing population has resulted in production of huge amount of decomposable waste, because food is required by all, and when food is made or consumed, huge amount of waste is also produced. So decomposable waste production has increased due to increasing population. So in order to protect the environment, we need to dispose the waste materials in a scientific way. And what all things can be done in order to get rid of the waste material? One is incineration. That is, here the waste materials are burnt at a very high temperature in an incinerator as a temperature of 800 degrees Celsius or so. The waste materials are burnt, and then the ash that is obtained after that, that is then dumped in the low lying area. So this is one way of getting rid of the waste. Open dumping should always be avoided because this results in pollution. Then other thing that is done is this landfilling. So what we can do is the biodegradable waste materials that are produced can be separated, and they can be decomposed in a compost pit. Okay, so compost, if they are decomposed in compost pit, then the resultant manure that one gets, this resultant manure can be used for it can be used to improve the fertility of the soil. And the non-decomposable waste materials, if they can dumped in low-lying areas, and then this act is called as landfilling. So this is also quite in practice. It's a way to get rid of the waste materials. As I said, the biodegradable waste material can become decomposed in compost pit, and this can be used for enriching the soil resources. Then the other thing that can be done is to adopt the 3 R's of waste management. Okay, you've been learning about the waste management, the 3 R's of waste management, that is reduce, that is you buy less. see that the amount of packaging material, if you buy less, if it's not required, don't buy. So when the amount of those or even if you buy such products which are having lesser packaging material, so the packaging material is all to be thrown. So if you do this, if you reduce the such products or make use of such products which are not having much of packaging material, you are in a way reducing the production of waste materials. Then the other R is to reuse, to use a thing again and again. Okay, there are many things like the bottles or the jars which can be used again and again. And the third R is recycle. So you can the plastics, papers, glasses, these can be recycled. They can be sent to, they can be like when a waste is generated at home, biodegradable waste can be decomposed. Non biodegradable waste, if they are sorted as metals, plastics, glasses, and then if they are sent through the recycling units, then one can get fresh materials and from those things, right? So by adopting those 3 R's of waste management, we can definitely minimize the waste production and protect the environment so that it becomes like pollution free, and we our survival will be possible. Because if we don't go on protecting the environment, if we don't take measures to stop the environmental degradation, then one day our life is going to be under threat. So that's about the chapter. Thank you.